Hi, I'm going to start talking about mouths, or basic oral hygiene. Just the basics of getting the mouth right and clean and working and all good. So let's go have a look at our Wookie. Now, I've done a couple of things to him from the last episode. I've fixed up his other eye, and you might say, hey, he's moving around a little bit. What did I do? And the rigging, what I've done is on the chewy level, I put a little marker on his head and I put the head tag on it. So if I click on it, that's how it knows the head, but you might notice his head's not moving around very well. And one of the reasons for this sort of thing, there can be different reasons, but in this particular case, it's because the mouth is not independent. And so by making it independent and attaching it to the head, I can now move the head. Cool. So that's one trick number one, is sort of like if something's not moving, it might be because something's not independent when it needs to be. I've never actually tried to work out why it needs to be independent, but it does. It could be because it's got hidden layers in it, and so the hidden things are not moving when I move the head around, and so it all gets confused. Something like that. Okay, but let's have a look at let's just do a quick run through of the mouth. So we're not interested in the eyes. This time we want to have a look at the mouth. So if we click on the mouth layer, so if in a previous episode, just copied this mouth from another puppet. And there are different mouths for different puppets. Great way to get up and going. You can then draw the layers properly yourself afterwards. So the mouth has got a root layer with mouth and mouth group both tagged on it. And then it's got all of these different layers. And I'm just looking over here for the tagging. And these mouth layers tell you what all the layer names should be. Now, for this one, you might notice it's got sub-layers. In this case, it's got two sub-layers, and it's also got what's called a cycle layers behavior. If I hover over there, it says cycle layers. And that will display both frames in order, and so it animates a little bit more smoothly. But if you want to know what pictures you've got to do, it is basically all of these ones. Okay, so how do they all work? Well, you might notice if I do some facial expressions like the Wookie opens his mouth, or if I smile, the Wookie smiles. I'm not making any noise. So those particular facial expressions, surprise and smile, are actually determined by camera input. So if I turn off the camera input, you might notice his mouth still moving, but if I smile, the puppet doesn't smile. And that's because the face behavior is controlling those ones. Now, if I turn off lip sync, you might notice he's not doing anything anymore. But if I took the camera input on, he can still smile. And so the face behavior is controlling some of the two of them, and all the rest are done by using sound analysis from this lip sync behavior to feed into choosing which viseme. So that's just basically how the mouth works. So you have a mouth with all these different layers into it. Let's go have a look. So I'm going to collapse some of these other ones just to get them out of the way and expand the mouth. I'm going to put the plus in front of the mouth to make him move. And let's hide the body. I'm not going to go through all these different mouth things, but just to sort of have a look, there's a smile one, there's a surprised, there's the letter D, the letter E, the letter F, and so forth. And so what you do is you have all these layers always, and you just make neutral visible by default. And that's what you're going to get if you copy it out of another puppet. It'll be structured something like this. It may or may not have cycle layers, but they're all pretty well consistent. So what happens if I want to introduce another mouth expression? I'll just leave the body off for the moment. If I want him to have a snarl or a super big cheesy grin or something like that, one of the expressions not here, what I find works best, there are multiple ways you can do it. Like with most things in Character Animator, there are multiple ways. But what I personally do is I create another layer, and I'm going to call it mouth group. And I'm going to put the mouth, it doesn't need to be independent anymore, as part of the mouth group. And what's going to happen is the mouth group is going to get tagged with mouth group. This one's going to get tagged with mouth. And then what I do is underneath the mouth group layer, that's where I draw the other mouth position. And let's go with, how do I pick another color? I'm just going to go with black. And what are we going to call this one? Sad. Let's call him sad. Oops, I need a paintbrush. And so it's going to be my sad. And so when I hide the mouth, that's what his mouth's going to look like. And I've got these siblings of the mouth layer. So the mouth and all the official positions, visemes, these are called visemes. They sit on the mouth. And then underneath mouth group, I've got sad and mouth. I'll probably put mouth first. But I've got sad as a sibling, and it's hidden. And let's bring back the rest of the Wookie. And save that. So it's going to get loaded. I may need to check the tags because that mouth layer is now called mouth group and it's got both. I don't want it to have mouth. I'm not exactly sure if this is the right way to do it, to be completely honest. I never really understood what the mouth group layer was for, but this is how I use it. And it works. So I'm just telling you what I do. So let's just make sure everything's sort of still working. Yep, nothing's got stuck. All the mouth positions are still going. And so then, I'm going to get rid of that one. I got rid of the something before I forgot to clean up. So then, how do I trigger it? Well, what I do is I create a swap set underneath mouth group. Create, you click on the mouth group and say create swap set. Over here, it's then got mouth and sad. So I make mouth the default, which it is by default, and then sad, I come up with something like D. I'm going to use D for sad, and the reason is I might use S for smile in a moment. So now we've got the D for sad, and so this is a swap set. The idea of a swap set is when I now do the D trigger, it knows to hide mouth. Mouth will be visible by default, but when I hit D, it's going to hide the mouth and add sad. And so if I've got, let's go and add another one. So I'm just drag and drop, and I'm going to say angry. So I'm going to make angry visible. I gotta make angry look a little bit different, just so we know what it is. I'm not trying to draw this nicely. I'm going to sort of go. Doesn't really matter. This is not very nice. So there's my angry expression. So I'm going to leave the mouth on by default. Save that. And so now I've got an angry one as well. And so how do I add him into the swap set? Well, I click here. I'm going to create a trigger for him. And I'm just going to drag it into the swap set. So I just dragged it above mouth group and it dropped into it. There's other ways of doing it. So I'm going to put an A for angry. And let's see how that comes out. And so the idea is it'll start with mouth by default. Otherwise, I can hit D or A and make him sad or angry. It's so we come here, we make sure we've got the triggers enabled, which we do, and say la da da la da. And then I hit the key D. And now, whatever I do with my mouth, the D is overriding it because it's hiding the mouth group. I have to let go of it to start seeing me talk again. I do A for angry. Obviously, I probably should have filled that up and put his tongue there or something or other. But you get the idea. I can make him angry, and that will stop him from talking. So this one is doing one expression if I do things. Now, if I do controls, you can actually click Generate Controls, and it starts to show you these. And so you can also click on these buttons. These are called controls. If you go into layout mode, you can say, I don't really want that one. I want to move that one around a little bit. Go back into perform mode, and then I can just click them, or I can press the A and D. And so it's just a useful one. You might sort of drag that off to another screen or something like that. Okay, so that was doing some static images, on top of the normal ones. But I mentioned, what happens if I want him to make him smile with a key press? And I'm going to do a recording as well. Well, if I want to do a smile, what I do is I create another swap set for mouth. But if I do right-click and create swap set, it puts it all in there. Oh, okay, you can create a trigger in a swap set. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to come over to the triggers panel, and I'm going to say create another swap set. And if you click on it and you hit enter, you can type in a new name. So I'm going to call it mouth. And then I'm going to grab smile. Actually, I'm going to grab neutral first. I'm going to just drag it over on top. That's going to be my default. So I click the default button, checkbox down here. And then I'm going to pick smile. Oops. So I didn't drag it on top of mouth, so it became the wrong level. I need it in the swap set. I'm going to put S for smile. I'm going to drag surprised over the top of mouth. I'm going to type in O for making an O sort of sound. I don't need to do a keystroke for that one. And how we're going to go now. So what's going to happen is if I do an S or an A, that's going to win, because that's going to replace the mouth. The whole mouth gets replaced by one of these other two layers. Otherwise, it's going to use visemes, but if I type in S or O, then it's going to force these two layers to be displayed, and I'll show you now. So, oops, D for sad, A for angry, and then a S for smile. You see, I'm talking, but it's the trigger is overridden it. And what was the other one? O for an O sound. Okay, so how does this come out when I record it? Well, I'm going to, if you click and drag, you can sort of select multiple things at once, and then hit the del key. And so I'm just clearing out all those old recordings. As I said, I hit the del key. I don't know why that didn't work. Anyway, and I'm going to do a new recording because I've got the eye gaze on. I got my triggers on, I got my face on, so let's do a recording. Control R, or you can hit this red button here, and away it goes. Recording, D for D, smile for that. I'm doing some more talking, A, and O, and that should do. And so I did a number of triggers. I also had the microphone on, which I needed to do to get the visemes, but I can choose whether to keep the soundtrack or not. Oops. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I'll just rearrange my windows. Oops. Oops, 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 oops. Oh well, I'll sort this out later. Okay. Let's just move over there. Didn't really mean to do that. Okay. So I've got the audio. This is the actual sound file. Down here, I'm going to zoom in a little bit and go back to the start. Down here is the actual visemes, and these are the ones, you can see here's the lip sync track. These are the ones that computed from the sounds. But you can also see triggers down here. And so when I hit that trigger, it did a recording here, and it's got one for the mouth group swap set and one for the mouth. Now you can right click on it and make it angry instead. You can trim the length of it. You can find a blank spot and right click and put in a new one and drag it out. If you've got a mouth group there already, and you can go back and then play it back. Now, the reason you're not hearing anything is because just the way I'm streaming it, it's not wired up. So, you can also get in here. You can get rid of things. If you don't like it, you can pick a different viseme because it wasn't what you wanted. So now it's doing an ooh sound and an ah and an ooh. I didn't like that ah, so I'm going to hit the del key and the ooh sort of grew to expand it. So anyway, so you can do various editing of these things down here and override it in your timeline. I can do another recording over the top if I want to. So for example, I might go here and say, I just want him to be 3, 2, 1. I just want him to be very angry. And so I held down the A key a second time. And because I had all these other things armed, I forgot about that. It's taken all sorts of camera input. And I said, oh, darn, I didn't want to do all that. So what I'm going to do is that was a mistake. I'm going to delete just that take, which will keep the one underneath. I'm going to delete that one. Here is my new take, but you see the new take is actually the whole recording time. So it's wiped out this other angry one down here, even though I wasn't pressing the A key. So if I don't like that, I can just grab that edge and limit its scope a little bit more. And I can grab it in the middle and drag around and so forth. And so now you become angry then, back to doing some more speaking, and then it become angry, the old one. So you can record over the top as many times as you like. You can collapse it if it's getting too voluminous, and you can sort of get this shorthand view of what's going on. But that was the basics of a mouth. So I tend to have a mouth group with the mouth group tag underneath that, a mouth with the mouth tag, and then all the visemes. And then as a sibling of the mouth, next to it, I put the other expressions, single-framed, single-picture expressions. So if I wanted an angry-looking mouth with a whole lot of different visemes, you can do that as well. That's not what I'm talking about here. This one is just simply saying a single expression, which is the sad expression instead of the mouth, or the angry expression. That's what this is. These layers are for. So what you can do, for example, is to have a whole second mouth group, tag it up, use the swap sets to pick between the mouth groups. But you may need to put multiple face and stuff behaviors. I'm not quite sure. I haven't prepared for that one at the moment. I've never actually done it myself, but it should work. But you may need to duplicate the face behaviors, because the face behaviors, if you click on the root up here of the puppet, not the root level, but just sort of like the puppet as a whole, there's a whole lot of behaviors that you get added by default. And so you've got a face behavior and an eye gaze behavior. You can come down on this individual thing and add another face behavior, another eye gaze, and change the settings for a particular layer. And so sometimes the behaviors will look for the first mouth. And if you've got two mouths, it won't control both, it'll just control the first one. And so you may need to come down if you want to have multiple mouths and to sort of say, I actually want an angry mouth set of mouths so that they all look angry, but it'll actually talk as well. You may need to put some more behaviors down at this level to make sure that both mouths get controlled, and you don't really want them up at the top level. You may want them just down at these levels down here. But I'm not going to demonstrate that. That's too much for this episode. I've already gone on longer than I was expecting, to be honest. But that's the way I normally set up mouths. It is not the only way you can set them up. But this is what I do and had success. And once I get something to work, I just tend to repeat it over and over and over again. Cool. Was there anything else? I don't think so. Cool. Well, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.